All right. Well, good morning. Welcome to our morning devotions. What is this? June 2nd? It's freezing out here in the Blue Ridge. It's supposed to warm up, but it was like only 42 this morning in on June 2nd. So, anyway, uh, welcome to summer. All right. Well, we're in Second Kings chapter 4, and we're going to. I posted verses 1 through 10, but chapter 4 has four miracles in it, all performed by Elisha. The first is what we're going to look at this morning, and that is there's this woman with this very severe debt that there's a miracle on how she's going to pay it. The next is a woman who can't bear a child, and so the miracle is that she's able to conceive. Elisha says within a year you're going to have a boy. And then the next miracle is that boy dies, and Elisha raises him from the dead. That's the third miracle. And the fourth miracle is there's poison in a pot of food, and Elisha saves the people and miraculously removes the poison from that which is being eaten. So that's all in chapter 4 of Second Kings. So when we said that he asked for a double portion of the miracles or the miraculous power of God upon him that Elijah had, you can see it's unfolding here. So let's look at the first miracle that we see, and that is going to be the multiplication of one cruse of oil. This is the same idea that we see of the Lord. 5 loaves and 2 fishes are enough to feed 5,000. So you have just a small amount. He blesses it and breaks it and feeds 5,000 people. There is a small amount, but that small amount, it continues to pour. I mean, when you come to the bottom of something that's very delicious, you wish the bottle was bigger. I love chocolate milk. All right, I love it when you buy it from the store. It's so creamy, delicious, right? And I hate it when you get to the bottom. And I think of these stories. Wouldn't it be nice if your chocolate milk that every time you poured it, it came out? But that's not the way it works. The way it works is you look at the glass bottle that the chocolate milk came in, and it goes like this. Yep. It goes like this, until the bottle is empty because you have drank it all. That's the miracle that we're going to see here. And we'll make some comments on it. But this is what God is able to do. Out of so little, much comes. And this is by the hand of God. He's capable of doing this. So we'll make a few comments in regards to that. So we're looking into Second Kings chapter 4, verse 1. And these are, as I said, these are just the miracles that Elisha performs by the power of God. And this first miracle is the paying of the woman's debt. So let's set this up. It says, "Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying," so we're going to talk about a widow here, okay? And she is in desperate need. These are not small things. She's in desperate need. "Thy servant my husband is dead," so she's a widow. "And thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord." He had a reputation of being a Jehovah worshiper. That's what we have. In the midst of what's happening here in the north, we have a faithful saint. My husband was faithful to Jehovah, and you know it. All right, he had a reputation of that. He said, "And the creditor is come to take him unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen." That is what's happening here. Is she is in debt because her husband is gone. Because at this time, to be a woman in these ancient times without a husband was going to be very desperate. He would have been the breadwinner. I mean, there's no safety net, is what I'm trying to say. We, especially here in the United States, we have ways to help. Although they've been corrupted, of course, the man corrupts everything he touches. But there have been ways to help. But she is in such a condition now that the people that she owes money to are going to take her sons as indentured servants. They are going to have to. He's going to take them and basically make them bondmen, is what it says here. He's going to make them slaves, and they're going to work for the creditor here until the debt's paid off. As soon as that happens, though, my mind goes to the fact that these creditors, these ones, they were just corrupt. There was all kinds of ways to take a bondman or an indentured servant and keep him forever. All right, because they would not only so the people that are the bondmen are working, but part of what they work for would be utilized by the creditor to say that they owe me that for room and board or all kinds of things, which would just set it back. It's like a credit card with such a high interest rate that the chances of digging out of it are very, very slim, or at least it takes a long time. If it was just going to the principal, things would be better. But the heart of man is deceitfully wicked. It's corrupt. All right, and so she's fearful that if the boys are taken, that things are not going to go well, and if her boys are taken, she's going to be all by herself. I mean, she's just going to be by herself. She's lost her husband. She's going to lose her boys. She may never see her boys again. They're going to be sold into slavery. She's going to be by herself. So when it says, now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets, I mean, this is what it is. She is at her wit's end is the point here. She's going to be by herself. Her sons are going to be slaves. And she's, after her boys are gone, I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, this is very, very, very tough. So Elisha's here, and he says, and Elisha said unto her, what shall I do for thee? Isn't this interesting? These men are remarkable because she's really in tough straits, and he says, well, what can I do for you? Tell me. And then he says this, because she doesn't know. So he asks another question. He says, tell me, what hast thou in the house? What do you have in the house? And we factor into this, what do you have in your house that's of any value? Now, she's not going to think what she has is of any value, but this is the way to see this, right at the front of it. Something in a small quantity is of probably not much value, all right? So let's say all I have, and I'm thinking of my house because my wife bakes all the time. She buys this flour in 50-pound bags. But if you said all I have is what's in the flour bin, which is only a handful, that's all I have left. There's not much value to that. But if it were to be multiplied, so now it's a 50-pound bag of flour, okay, now it's worth something, you see. So there is something that is this worth something, but there's just not enough of it, is the point. What the money is going to be made, the debt is going to be paid by the multiplication of something that by itself is of no value. But if you have a lot of it, okay, it's of value. All right. If all you had was one apple, well, you're not going to get much for an apple. But if you have bushels of apples, now it's worth something. You're just going to multiply something that does have value, but because of its size, it's not going to amount to anything. But if you could multiply that and there was lots of it, now it's worth a lot. That's what's going on here. I was just thinking, as you consider in your own life, when the Lord might challenge you, and this question comes up, what do you have? And you say, well, what do you have of value? Well, you have probably lots of things that are valued, but you just don't have a lot of it. All right, and that's where God intervenes and the multiplication of the small amount occurs. So it says, he says, tell me what thou hast in thy house. And she said, thine handmaid hath not anything in the house, because the amounts are too small. All right. She doesn't have anything in the house save a pot of oil. I have one pot of oil. All right. And the word oil here, I think it's interesting. I think this is a hapax. This word for oil is the only time it's used in the Bible, or very rarely. It has to deal with anointing oil. The word. Now, I don't think it had any. I didn't have any religious element here, but it's interesting that that's the word that's used as so to speak, to speak of how precious it is. This little bit of oil. All right. Save this pot of oil. That's all I have. All right. And here's where it all begins. And now Elisha, by the wisdom of God, says this. Then he said, go, borrow thee vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. So he says, listen, you and your boys scour the neighborhood, scour the neighborhood for empty pots, he said, we don't want pots that have something in them. Isn't that interesting? What good is more emptiness? What good is more emptiness? He's telling him to go get empty pots, not go borrow oil that you can sell and pay your neighbors. Go get empty pots. Now, when the prophet tells you to go get something, then you just go do it. When God tells us to go do something, we just go do it. You might say to yourself, and I'm thinking the boys when they go out and they're saying, what in the world are we doing? What are we doing? We're going to get empty pots? There's no value. The only thing in the pot is air, maybe a little dust. I mean, but the prophet said to go do it. This is where all the rationalists and this is where all the empiricists and all of those that don't begin with a Christian presupposition, they would say this is just lunacy. There's absolutely no purpose. This is all wasted time. It's not wasted time if God tells you to do it. You see, because we don't understand exactly how, or I shouldn't even say exactly, we don't understand how God works. We just know that if we do it His way is best. That's all we know. I describe it this way. We just have the answer sheet to God's plan. God's plan is an algorithm, a mathematical algorithm, by way of my illustration, of infinite proportion, of all the factors that go into what God is going to do in your life, in my life, and then factor that in the cosmos and everything in creation and of every person on the planet. All right? This is a algorithm of infinite proportion. If we said, I want to see the plan, you would spend the rest of your life reading about how we got to this place. It would take you forever to see God's plan from the time you were born and all of that to bring you to the place you are now. God says, I'm not going to show you the nuts and bolts, the making of the sausage of my plan for you. That's not going to happen. I am going to give you the answer sheet, and all you have to do is trust me that my math is right to bring it here. That's all, and that's just my little illustration. That's all you have to do. God gives us the Word of God, so all we have now, we have the answer sheet. So we don't have to be Einstein, okay, or these brilliant men that God has created to show us how we all got here. He says, here's the answer sheet. What is it? E equals MC squared. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, everything it took to get to that, but there you have it. The Bible is the answer to the equation. So if it says, go get empty pots, there is a reason for this. That's the point. When he tells us about the promises of his word, they are all true. And they're all going to happen. Every one of them. There isn't anything God's ever said that's not going to happen. All right. So here it is. I'm going to ask you to do something that may on the face of it look kind of foolish. I want you to go to all your neighbors and gather up all the empty pots and get as many as you can. It says, borrow not a few. Don't just get a few. I mean, fill your house with empty pots is what Elisha is saying. And it's interesting in the story a little later. She says, go get some more, and they've cleaned out the neighborhood. That is exactly what you're supposed to do. When God says go do this, don't stop with a few. Go get everything. Go do everything. Because the blessing is going to amount to just keep going and doing the miracle. Part of the miracle is get every empty pot. Just keep going. We went as far as we could go. We went to the outskirts of town. We got everybody's empty pot, and it's covered my house. Every room's filled with empty pots. Now we're talking. This is what happens. It says, and when they are come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons. This is interesting. He wants this all done in secret. He wants this all done in secret. Why do you think, and commentators all have reasons on why this should be done in secret. Miracles Christ did were done in the This miracle is to be done in secret. The only ones that know exactly what happened here are Elisha, the widow lady, and the two boys. And the first thing I go to is she is going to come up with enough money. She's going to come up with enough money here, not only to pay the debt, but to live on. I mean, what the amount of oil that's going to be in her house is just going to be off the charts. And I could just see some of the neighbors saying, "Hey, that's my pot." Hey, if that's my pot, then that's my oil. I mean, you could see that. So it's all being done in secret because the purpose of this is for her to pay the debt. It's going to go beyond paying the debt, but this is all supposed to be done in seclusion. Get the pots, go in the house, close the door. Nobody in the neighborhood needs to know what's going on. I think that's interesting. I mean, if he says that, then just close the door and go about your business. And that's what's happening here. Nobody else needs to know what's going on here. This is a miracle just for you, not for the neighbors. All right? So he goes on. He says, close the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and thou shalt pour into all these vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that one cruse of oil, all right, and you're going to keep pouring it until all of the pots from the community are full of oil. And what's going to happen here is that she's going to fill all the pots. The whole house is full of pots filled with oil. And then she tells the boys, go get more, because she can see how this is working. I mean, she's saying to herself, this is great. This is working. She said, so she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And it came to pass when the vessels were full, everything's full, that she said unto her sons, bring me yet a vessel. Go get me some more. I mean, we're on a roll here. She said, and he said unto her, there is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. It stopped. That is, after everywhere you could pour the vessel was filled, there wasn't any more oil. All right. The oil stayed. So that's the end of the oil. All right. But just think, I'm thinking if I'm sitting in the house, I have nowhere to sit. I'm just tiptoeing between pots everywhere. I got pots of oil on the chair, the table, the couch, everywhere. There are pots everywhere, and they're all full. The whole house smells with the aroma of this oil, right? I mean, and this is just the aroma of wealth. This is the aroma of money. And she's going, this is amazing. You're telling me you can't find one more pot? And I bet you that boy, realizing what's happening here, he made sure there's no more pots. I mean, we took every empty pot we could. All right. So now the house is full of oil, which equals paying the debt. I mean, what a day. It said, he says, and the oil stayed. In verse 7, and she came and told the man of God. So they opened the door, come out, and said, "Hey, we can't find another empty pot." And he said, "Go sell the oil." See, now you have more than just that little pot of oil. You have a house full of oil. You've hit the crude. Okay, you got oil pumping out of your house through the derrick. All right, it's like you're in Texas, or they are the ancient Near East. All right, Saudi Arabia pumping oil. Only it's just in pots in my house. He said, go sell that oil, pay thy debt, all right? Right there. You say to yourself, why did we do this miracle? Why did we do this miracle? Because there's a debt and your sons are going to be taken into bondage, you know. Now, that would be a good reason for them to do that, but perhaps, I mean, would it cross anyone's mind to say that maybe I should spend it on something else? I don't think so. All right, not in this case. I think her face was set like a flint because she wants to save her boys and to save herself as well. So he says, go pay this, go pay your debt, and then and live thou, this is the last part, and live thou and thy children of the rest. There was so much that a debt that would have meant the taking of her boys was going to be paid, and there's still so much more. You're going to put it in the bank. You can live off the rest. The rest. I love the phrase, the rest. There's all of that, and then there's the rest. I mean, you paid your debt, And after the debt was paid, you still have money in the bank, is what he's saying here, and you can live off that. It is a fantastic account here, and how this is a very focused miracle. It's not for a lot of people, but you'll see that's what happens oftentimes in miracles. It's focused on a thing, not a lot, but on a person. And matter of fact, so many miracles are that way. I'm not going to go through them all, but at the end here, the last miracle is going to be for a group of individuals. But the next miracle here is for a woman that can't bear children. She's going to bear a son. That son is going to die, and Elisha's going to raise him from the dead. And so we have individual miracles or family miracles, and that's what you see here. This is a miracle for the woman and the boys, a family miracle, just focused on a family. And by the grace of God, something that in all the world, while all the world is just busy, doing whatever, the Scripture gives us this like a pulling back the curtain, so to speak, into the life of one woman and two boys and the prophet Elisha. And to see how God, when it talks about his eye is on the sparrow, that his focus is like narrowly focused at times. I mean, that's important for us to understand too. There's times we need help, and while God is sovereign over all, his attention is on you. Isn't that fascinating? Of all the things that we could write about in Scripture, of all the things, the great kingdoms of the world of that time, and all the empires of that time, and all the wars and battles and victories that have been won, and all the heroes of those nations, the Bible includes God's care of a widow lady and her two boys. You see, that is the attention God places on his own. And so you can just put yourself there. I mean, if he'll take care of them, he'll take care of you. I mean, it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. All right. Well, I'm going to read 3 more verses because this chapter is 44 verses long. All right. So there's going to be a break now. That is over. It says we're going to go to the next situation where the next miracle is going to unfold. Begins in verse 8. And it fell on a day that Elisha passed to Shunem. There was a great woman. That is, we have a powerful woman, a wealthy woman, an important woman, okay, someone of renown in the area, okay. So she's a woman of means and of authority, is what we're saying here. And I'm going to look at that Shunem. I got to be careful, but I'm almost certain this is the Shulamite. She is from Shunem, which is where you had the nurse of King David, and the Shulamite, which was the wife of Solomon in the Song of Solomon. In these situations, especially in the Song of Solomon, the Shulamite owns her own vineyard, which I think is interesting. In a patriarchal society, she owns her own property. All right, it's not like she's just some wallflower. I mean, that's why it says she's black. The idea is she's out in the sun caring for this vineyard. I mean, and which, because of her tan, she stands out from all the fair, complected women of the court who very rarely went out in the sun at all. But that's included in the song. So when we talk about a great woman here, maybe she's not only got one vineyard, maybe she owns like all the vineyards, is the kind of idea. This is the idea of the Proverbs 31 woman who's busy at work, all right? It's not that she forsakes her family, but she's an industrious woman is the point. That's what we have here in this woman, all right? It said, and it fell on that day that Elisha passed to Shunem. There was a great woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. That is, she is sympathetic to the prophet, which is exactly what happens in the New Testament with Lydia. I mean, you wouldn't get the New Testament church started without godly women that are down praying. And I've preached about this. It is the ladies that seem to have the initial sensitivity to the need of the gospel and the care of God's man, and then churches are started from that seed. And the same thing is here when it comes to Elisha. She constrained him to eat bread, and it was so that as oft as he passed by, he turned in hither to eat bread. This is the idea of for the Lord, it was Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. there in Bethany. They were friends, and when he would pass by, he could stay there. It's perfect. We have friends. I have one friend in particular, pastor and his wife, dear saints. And whenever I'm in this particular neck of the woods, all right, I am always welcome there. Even if they're not home, they just tell me where the key is. And there's others, but I remember this one, the pastor and his wife in particular. All right, take tremendous care of me and my family when I'm in that area, and that's the same idea. That she says that my door is always open. There's the key to the house, and just you know where the bedrooms are. There's food in the refrigerator. There's cereal in the cupboard. Just enjoy yourself. Without any effort, you're just welcome. That's who this lady is. All right. Yeah, just stop over. And if you know somebody, we are watching this, and you know somebody that's busy in the Lord's work, I would just recommend, and you know that they are trustworthy. You know them. I'm not asking you to risk anything here, especially if you're not home. But if you know somebody that's busy in the Lord's work, and they're in the Lord's work, and they're in the region, and they can stand a place to stay and a meal, this is a good example on how you as an individual can care for someone in the ministry, is what I'm trying to say. That's all she's doing here. He doesn't have to go to a hotel, and he doesn't have to sleep outside, so he doesn't have to do that. And she's got a house, she's got money, there's things to eat, there's a place to sleep in out of the cold. Undoubtedly, she's a great woman. There's servants there. To look after them, right? Just like Mary, Martha, and Lazarus and Bethany, and here, this woman is there to look after Elisha. And it says, and it says he turns in here. When he's by, he stops in because he knows he's welcome. He's not a burden, is the point. I have a problem with that because you don't want to be a burden to somebody, but some people are just so generous that you don't feel that way, and that's the way she is, okay? It says, and she said unto her husband, behold, now I perceive that this is an holy man of God, which passeth by us continually. I understand who this guy is. He's all the time in the neighborhood. And then she says to her husband, let us make a little chamber, I pray thee, on the wall. Let's put on an addition. Let's put an addition onto the house. Whoa, this is a little bit beyond staying at somebody's place. This is a woman that says, this guy is a man of God. I think we should actually build an addition on the house for him. I have never seen this at a private residence, all right? Because the houses of people that God have blessed have multiple bedrooms, and they're larger than what you would see back here in these days, okay? Not that they didn't build big places, but we've been wonderfully blessed here in America, okay? But she says, no, we need to actually build him his own place. We got to put an addition on the house. We want a place that's just his. It says, let us make a little chamber, I pray thee, on the wall, and let us set for him there a bed, a table, and a stool, and a candlestick. So we want a place for him to sit. We want him in a place where he can sit and eat. A light. He needs a light up there, all right, because we don't know what time of the day or night he's coming in. He said, and it shall be when he cometh to us that he shall turn in thither. And I'll just stop there. When he stops by, he'll have his own apartment. And I mentioned this before because the word chamber is used for Elijah, but here it's developed in more detail of where you get the idea of a prophet's chamber. And as I said, you don't generally see these attached to individual homes, right? But what you do have is churches that build these apartments. Take, for instance, the last one that I stayed in, it's been a while, but the last one I stayed in, a church had a building program. It had a huge Christian school. I haven't been there in ages, but it had a huge Christian school. And when we built the Christian school, the Christian school had been there forever, but they raised the money for a all-purpose building, like for a gym and other things. And in that all-purpose building, they put in a prophet's chamber that actually built an apartment in that new construction. So if you came and you were speaking at the church, this is where you would stay. All right. And I mentioned that. They put a refrigerator in there. There's food, stuff to drink, the bed, a place to sit and write. All of these things where you can study, getting ready for whatever meetings you're having. That's what the lady here in Shunem did for Elisha. All right. Well, that's Monday. We're off and running. Lord bless you. Just have a great day. Live for the Lord. All right. And we'll see you. Lord willing, I'll see everybody tomorrow. Okay, we'll see you. Bye.